Welcome back to the Nurse Niche podcast. I'm your host, Sean Dent. Thanks for stumbling upon my ramblings about everything nursing. Today's episode is all about sleep. Sleep, the lack thereof, the fragmented type, and the zombie-like sleep that nurses, all shapes and sizes from all walks of life, will experience once they become a nurse. I guess you could say this is for anyone who's a shift worker, so I don't want to be biased, obviously being a nurse and being a nurse practitioner, but this can apply to every shift worker out there. The problem with shift work is the infamous flip-flop, or the flip, going from days to nights, afternoons, days, nights, having to double back, working a double shift. All that can just wreak havoc on your sleeping habits. And in the end, the lack of sleep actually will affect your health. So it is our responsibility as nurses to take care of ourselves. So we have to figure out a way to sleep better, or to at least get some sleep. One of the first rules in nursing is that you will get no sleep. And while it is a joke, it is the absolute truth. Unless you can progress in your career and find the infamous day shift kind of job. I so happen to be in that phase of my career. I've been lucky enough to work in a position where they need us more during the day than they do at night, coupled with staffing issues and other stuff, but I've been thankfully only had to work the day shift with some intermittent twilight shifts. But believe me, as a nurse, going on for greater than a decade, I've had to do the flip. I've had to do the flip-flop. I've had to work all kinds of shifts, work every day of the week, so I can empathize with the flip-flopping and the lack of sleep. Once you get over the depressive thought of the minimal amount of sleep you're going to get, the next thing you have to figure out is what kind of a sleeper are you? Are you a light sleeper or a heavy sleeper? Do you fall asleep easy and then can sleep until a bomb goes off? Or are you like me? I'm a light sleeper. It's hard for me to fall asleep. It's hard for me to stay asleep. So know yourself and know your sleeping habits. If you're going to work flip-flopping days and nights, you're going to have to plan ahead. If you live alone, it's really not that big of a deal. But if you have anyone else in the household, and this could be everything from as simple as pets that need attention to having a family with children of all ages, you're going to have to plan accordingly, because you're going to have to sleep when they're awake, which is probably the most difficult thing to do. Not only from a physical perspective, can you actually physically sleep, but are you going to have an environment optimized for you to actually sleep? When I say optimized, can it come close to mimicking what it's like to sleep like normal human beings do, or the majority of the nation who sleep in the middle of the night when the sun is down? You're going to have to be sleeping in the middle of the day when the sun's up and everyone's doing their normal everyday activities. You'll have to figure out how to sleep. In the short amount of time that I was suffering on nights and flip-flop shifts, I never mastered this process because my sleeping habits are so bad. But here are a couple tips that I've learned over the years and from other coworkers that just might help you. First is limit your fluid intake before you know you're going to go to bed. That includes the end of your shift. Working at midnight, everybody wants to pound the coffee and the caffeine and the caffeinated drinks, or to pound the water, but you need to make sure that you stop drinking fluids a couple hours, if at least an hour, before you go to bed, because guess what? The minute you fall asleep, your bladder's going to remind you to get up. So do yourself a favor and try and limit the amount of fluids you take in before you're on your way to bed. I'd say about an hour and a half. If you can go greater, that's awesome, but at least the minimum is an hour. If you can, create some sort of a habit that is the same every time you go to bed. So whatever that habit may be, whether it's day or nights, do you brush your teeth? Do you go take a shower? Whatever the case may be, I'm the kind of person that actually takes a shower before I go to bed. So regardless of what time of the day it is, I always go shower before I go to bed. It just kind of tricks your mind and your body into thinking that it's still, middle of the night. Some of the other things you can do, or lastly, what you can do is, of course, you need to create a dark environment, as dark as possible. Closing the doors, putting the blinders on the windows. I can remember putting up cardboard in my window, taping it to the wall. You can have the blackout curtains, whatever works for you. You need to figure out how to limit the amount of light coming into your bedroom. Oh, and as a side note, you're going to be sleeping in the middle of the day. You might want to turn off any device that's going to go off, whether that be your TV, your phone, landline, cell phone, pager, what have you. You'll be kindly reminded of how many people will forget that you're in the middle of your sleep when they decide to try and contact you for a chat. These tips aren't set in stone. Everyone's a little bit different. Everybody has some other suggestions. Obviously, you could probably go down the medication route, but I'm not even going to touch on that because you can have over-the-counter medications that can help with sleep, and then you have prescription medications that can help you sleep. Each to their own when it comes to that particular piece. You'll have to do your own research regarding that. While sleeping is quote-unquote optional, it is a must. You will find out very quickly what it's like to try and work on the floors or work in your office or to do your job at your best when you have no sleep. Take it from me, you do not want to try and become the zombie nurse. Thanks for tuning in to the Nurse Niche. I'm your host, Sean.